Welcome to another Viking Warrior Day edition of It Takes a Viking, the official podcast of the Salem State University Alumni Association. My name is Mike Mitchell, Associate Director of Alumni Relations. Very excited to welcome another one of our campaign co-chairs for the Meet the Moment campaign, a 2014-2017 graduate from Salem State, from the Bertillon School of Business. Please welcome to the show, Nicole Goggin. Nicole, how are you?
Hello, I'm doing well. Very happy to be here.
Thank you so much for joining us. We've had the pleasure of working together before, so I'm excited to share your story. I know you're a busy person these days, a lot of marathon training and good things happening in your world. So certainly appreciate you taking the time to talk with us today. So let's dive right into it. The first question we always like to ask guests on the show is, what brought you to Salem State as a student? How did you end up here?
So Salem State's right in my backyard. So it's only like a 5-minute ride, which was very nice. And honestly, after seeing the campus, talking to some of the staff, and along with what I was deciding to go to school for, Salem State became, one of the last two to decide between. And, for the value and the location, and then, like I said, everything I saw on campus, it really was an easy decision after whittling it down major-wise. So it was great. And I was on campus for a little bit, and then I decided to be a commuter. And again, it's just a very nice campus to get to. I know people have said parking is tricky, but honestly, if they're early enough, it's not that bad. I've always was able to get a spot, but I won't tell you what time I got in. But again, there was nice spots to just sit and either get your coffee or study.
One of the things that you mentioned to me just recently that I didn't know, both of your degrees that you have from Salem State are from the business school, but you actually started here as a biology major. So I'm curious kind of maybe what the origin was there and what you were thinking about studying, why you transitioned to business, and then talk a little bit about how your education here helped prepare you for what life after college was like.
Yeah, so I started as a biology major. I thought I was going to go into nuclear medicine. And again, one of the people I shadowed in high school told me he was an adjunct for Salem State, and he was just great. To this day, I still say it's very unfortunate that I don't work with him. But again, it was working in a hospital that I figured I didn't like this path. So, but I wanted to stay in business and at the school. So I quickly pivoted, and again, with the resources available and the faculty and staff support, it made transitioning very easy. I did this halfway through, literally junior year. I started not without a little hustle, but again, with the support and guidance of everybody, it was very easy.
Thinking back to your time here, I know from working with you that there are a couple of professors that you're very close with and that you work very closely with, but do you have kind of one key person, memory, experience, anything like that you remember most fondly from your time here, either at the graduate or undergraduate level?
Yeah, I can think of a couple. One was like when I was first trying to put my papers in, I met up with Professor Goodoff, who to this day, we're still very good friends now. And I just remember it because, again, I was trying to figure out how to do it, but then I was also coming back like a dentist appointment where I had to get cavity filled. So I was talking to him and I felt my mouth was numb and I was like being weird. And he was probably looking at me like, why is she acting weird? Does she have a little slur? Like, what is happening? And she's trying to transfer into this school. Okay. But it was great. That's probably one of the funniest, like very first memory.
Certainly a different one to say the very least, but
yeah.
If you were, so I wonder too now, as you've been out of school for a little while, if we were to bring you back, no, it's not even been 10 years. You don't get to say a lot of while yet. Come on now. If we were to bring you back, and I know you come back regularly, but if we were to put you in front of a classroom full of graduating seniors right now, as someone who kind of came here with the expectation of studying one thing and then realizing that something else might have been a better option for you, what do you think a piece of advice that you would give them would be about taking the next steps after school?
Yeah, I think exactly as you started your prompt, I did switch halfway through. And anyone who knows me, I am pretty like firm and stand in what I know. And any like uncertainty is not my cup of tea. So getting comfortable with that is definitely something that I would give as a piece of advice, that you should really get comfortable with the uncomfortable or the uncertain. You never know where life is going to take you, and to be open to it. Don't be so resistant or strong in what you think you want to do or believe others think you need to do, and go with what is right for you.
I love it. Understanding that the path may not always be linear from kind of A to B, that you might have to take some turns along the way, and being open to those. That's great advice. But that brings us to kind of more present day stuff, right? So you graduated in 2014, 2017 with your MBA. You've stayed involved as a volunteer for many, many years. And we're certainly appreciative to you for that. It's led us to kind of the situation we find ourselves in now. We've announced that there's a moment that we have to meet, and we're in the middle of this exciting and an ambitious fundraising campaign, and you're a co-chair in that process. And so I'm curious what kind of went into your decision when you were approached about the idea in coming on board in that role.
So being asked was extremely a great honor, but also really scared me. I was like, I don't know if I'm ready for this jump into such a big responsibility, but I think it was really important to join. Exactly as the campaign says, to meet this important opportunity where it is that to help incorporate a younger voice, a more, or at least newer voice. I don't know if I'm as young anymore, but yeah, closer to those who are graduating, those who are still in school. I think that brought a really healthy perspective to this campaign.
One of the pieces of the campaign, so the campaign has identified 4 priorities that they're trying to achieve in the next couple of years as we kind of go through this process and in support of the students in the university. And one of those is unrestricted giving. And I know that that's an area that's very important to you, and you've been a longtime supporter of the institution, but I'm curious of why that's an area of importance to you, and kind of at the larger level, why do you think, as a private individual, but also kind of as a recipient of it yourself as a student, why is public and private support so critical for the institution?
So I give unrestricted myself every year as part of my pledge. And I just think it's good to go unrestricted because I don't know the inner workings of the school. So I don't know where the greatest need is. I could certainly dedicate it to the Burlone School specifically. Quite honestly, it's not my major that ever needs help. The Burlone School is the newer building. It has the nicer technology. So I don't feel like it's as needed there. Again, I'm sure we could talk to professors there and they will definitely voice their opinion. There's other extracurriculars that certainly could use support. But again, I do trust the university to dedicate the resources as applicable, especially coming off the heels of the pandemic where the Student Emergency Fund was really crucial. And I think the unrestricted donations really helped fund that, or at least contribute to that as well. Because again, unlike any other years prior, if this fund was available, I don't know how many people needed it, but I'm sure a lot more people needed it in 2020, 2021, which they weren't probably expecting.
And the great thing about the Student Emergency Fund, like you mentioned, is that it's not just tuition and fee specific. It's if one of the students needs help with food or paying bills or whatever the case may be, that fund is there to help in those ways as well.
Yeah, and that was really a beautiful thing about the fund as well that I honestly didn't think about. Again, we all think about needing books, needing, maybe assistance of transportation to school, but not the, essentials. Again, if you think of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, like just basic survival. And again, I think that was truly a gift to be able to have available for students.
But why do you think, as a person who's invested your own personal resources in, and you've kind of touched on this a little bit already, but why do you think not only at the public level through the Commonwealth, but why alumni and friends should get involved in supporting the university? Why do you think giving is so crucial to the future of our success?
Even though Salem State is a public university, there's a bunch of public universities that the state also needs to help fund and resource. And then, we have plenty of students that come in, transfer students. So I think if maybe you look at the numbers, it just has a lot more students than your private sector universities. And again, I think it is the unsung hero of, public universities are unsung heroes of education. They're there for students who might have had to choose this school as a more realistic option. They did have to, put a dream aside or this expectation of what school would be for the university. So for coming to Salem State, but again, I would expect that even though you had to do that, they still had, just as good a time with all the resources, which again are only made possible through additional donations. And so there's that. And then also, I think in general, to have support from donors, it also just proves how well the school was a good resource for them. And I think we need donor support to be able to display that to current students that, yes, we get this funding from the state, but we have alumni who really appreciated the education they got. They got a phenomenal skill set. They were able to go into the world and be their best selves. And for that, they're coming back to say thank you.
Alumni just like you. So I know that everybody's got kind of their own, as we consider the theme of this campaign, Meet the Moment, right? Everybody's got kind of their Salem State moment. And you kind of touched on a funny experience you had with Professor Goodoff earlier, but I'm wondering if, in looking back on your years of involvement with the business school, with the Alumni Association, now with the campaign, and even remembering those first days on campus and kind of the unexpected way in which you got to hear, do you have, what is your Salem State moment that you remember most fondly?
Other than graduating?
That could be it.
It was this accomplishment of being able to say, I put in this 4 years of hard work. And again, for me, it was extra hard work where, those last 2 years you get to coast. Usually I had to ramp back up to really wrap up and finish on time. But honestly, I enjoyed my mentor time, being a peer mentor. That was, again, a very rewarding experience to be able to take my experience with signing up for classes and trying to figure out the course load and being able to help someone else who either is unsure, again, not sure about the professors because we got to be candid, or again, just at a loss of where to go, what to do, realistically, how many courses should I be holding at one time. So giving them that insight, that was fun.
Peer mentors play a critical role in helping students navigate the college experience, exactly like you said, providing that authentic feedback, advice, things to consider as the students navigating their college journey. So I think that's awesome. I think that's a great experience to remember. And now as we find ourselves in the throes of not only this Meet the Moment campaign, but we're in our 6th annual Viking Warrior Day, something else that I know you've been a part of, campus tagging and coming to things that are happening. What do you enjoy about Viking Warrior Day the most, and why do you always continue to support us each year on Viking Warrior Day?
I like it. It's a chance to, again, remember and be appreciative for the resources that we have made possible by donors. So again, we go by the classrooms that say someone's name or the rooms. But again, especially being in the Braille School, those nice classrooms, again, are made possible through donors. And otherwise, we would have more broken down items, or we don't have as nice resources that would be displayed in the real world. That's another thing. In the real world, we would have projectors and all these things that we need to be able to navigate and figure out how to work. So having those around, the exposure to them will, again, give us a better starting point when we go out into the world. So just taking time to remember, and, maybe if someone takes an extra minute and stops and looks at that name and says, oh, who was that? I didn't realize that the accounting lab that I always go into was made possible by someone. It wasn't just the school. It wasn't from the state. It was someone specific. So just, again, an opportunity to be appreciative for all the resources we have.
You keep mentioning that, and I think it's so important to emphasize that, we always affectionately refer to it as Bertillon School of Business, and remembering that Bertillon is a name of not only a donor to the institution, but graduate as well, Henry Bertillon, class of 74, who was the namesake of that School of Business and helped get a lot of these things kind of running in the early stages, in the early 2000s. So you're right on there. And certainly very grateful to you for all your support and your commitment to the university. The last question I'd like to ask before I let you go is, what does being a member of this community and a graduate of this institution mean to you?
It means a lot. I really am glad to be part of such a very large community of people who really chose to come to a school. Again, maybe they did have to sacrifice the idea, because I'm not going to say it was a dream. It's an idea. Honestly, we all have these thoughts of what college could be or would be or should be. But in reality, we have to go for this higher learning to be able to get the skills to have this opportunity in life. And so it's not about the location or the frills or the dorm. It's about the faculty and the resources that are made possible through donors. So yeah, it's a big thing to be a part of, as well as it's a family thing too. In my family, we have quite a few Salem State alumni. So alumni. So it's great to be a part of that group. And yeah, it runs in the family. It was only natural.
I can't think of any better way to end our time today. So
can I add one more thing?
Of course. Yeah.
Absolutely. So to the donor part too, you brought up a really good point about that. Again, it's not only remembering and being appreciative for the things that were made possible by donors, but also it's an opportunity to see not only those who were successful, because again, I don't know if state schools get the recognition that, again, it's a state school. I know in high school I got a lot of flack for it, but state school does produce quite a few very prominent, very successful people. So that's one. And then two, some of those donors aren't even Salem State alumni. And that's another thing to note, is they weren't even part of this exclusive club to be an alumni, and they see value. They see the great, assistance and, again, faculty, staff support, skill set being provided. And they are just giving because they recognize something great.
It's a good return on investment, a good value investment, to speak for the folks in the business world. Well, Nicole, I think you've brought everything together beautifully at the end there. And again, I'm just super grateful to you for the time today to be able to help share your story. And really want to thank you for joining us this afternoon on our 6th annual Viking Warrior Day. It's a very exciting day on campus again. That was It Takes a Viking with Nicole Goggin, one of our Meet the Moment campaign co-chairs. Stay tuned for more great content here on social media throughout the day. To stay up to date on what's going on in our fundraising efforts for this day, visit salemstate.edu/VWD. And until next time, thanks for watching.